Srimad Bhagavad Gita, as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, chapter 11, text 36. So in this verse, Arjuna speaks of how perfect persons glorify Krishna. That's the natural for every purified person to glorify Krishna. If we find someone who's very great, the natural tendency is to glorify him. And Krishna is the greatest of the great. Of course, some people are great, but not in a very nice way. They're very powerful, and if you don't glorify them, they punish it. And sometimes people glorify others because they want to get some benefit from them. But Arjuna is praising Krishna out of his pure heart, Arjuna's pure heart. And he also mentions that people who are not of pure heart, they don't like to glorify Krishna. Yesterday and this morning we were in Tiruvannamalai. So, of course, that's famous for the very large Shiva temple there. So traditionally in Tamil Nadu there's been rivalries between worshippers of Shiva and worshippers of Vishnu. And they were actually very inimical towards each other at one point in time. But the tendency to, the Vaishnavas would say bad things about Shiva and the Shaivites would say bad things about Vishnu. But our perspective is that they should both be glorified. Shiva is also, we are Vaishnavas, worshippers of Vishnu, but we recognize that Shiva is a very great person. But it's also good to understand how he is great and why he is great. It's stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vaishnavanam yatha, next word, Shambhu. Lord Shiva is always glorifying Krishna, therefore he is great. So Krishna should be glorified. How should he be glorified? How much can we glorify him? We hear of Ananta Shesh, he has 1,000 mouths, and since time immemorial he's been glorifying Krishna. He never says the same thing twice, and he didn't come to an end and never will. Krishna's qualities should be glorified. His beautiful form should be glorified. His devotees should be glorified. This is called bhakti, or devotion. So how shall we glorify Krishna? It's difficult to think where to begin. But our Vaishnav gurus, they've written thousands and thousands of songs and prayers in glorification of Krishna. And how many can we remember? So there's one very simple process in which all the glorification is brought together. What is that? Chanting the names of Krishna, especially the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
If we think how we can glorify Krishna properly, it becomes a very difficult task. Krishna is very great and we're very small. It's very difficult for us to even imagine how great Krishna is. And our intelligence is very limited. So how much can we understand about the greatness of Krishna? But we know that Krishna is pleased when we chant his name. And we also become pleased. Is it? You're feeling happy by chanting Hare Krishna. Why should we be happy by chanting Hare Krishna? There's so many other things you can chant. What's the present popular Tamil film song?
Names of the...
Is it?
Yeah. Nago Krishna's name.
Is it? Oh, that's very good. Huh? Mukunda. That's nice. It's coming back in fashion. Anyway, there are so many things we can chant. Prabhupada, I think it's Prabhupada gave the example that you can chant Coca-Cola, but no one becomes happy by chanting Coca-Cola. And you become bored very quickly after about 20 seconds by chanting Coca-Cola. But we see that devotees go on chanting Hare Krishna all their life. Rupa Goswami was lamenting that he only had one tongue and only one pair of ears, because he's finding that this chanting is so nice He wants to chant more and more and hear more and more the sound of Krishna's name. And it's a very simple process. Rupa Goswami, who's heard of Rupa Goswami? Please raise your hand. Those who are reading the books, they've heard of Rupa Goswami. So he was a very great scholar, Sanskrit scholar. What's the name of, who can tell the name of any book that he wrote? Upadeshamrita. And the other? Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anyone know any others? He wrote many more, but these two are very famous. Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Hamsa Dutta, Vidagdha Madhu, Lalita Madhu. So many books. So, it's very difficult for us to even understand the books, let alone even think of writing such books. Because after all, Krishna, he is everything and he has all qualities, so to explain that fully, or to attempt to explain that fully, that requires a very high level of scholarship. But the essence of all that glorification is chanting the names of Krishna. So we can't expect that we'll all be very great scholars. And even the greatest scholar, how much can we understand about Krishna? But we can all chant Hare Krishna. It's very easy. As Rupa Goswami said in one of his prayers glorifying the name of Krishna, that everyone who has a tongue and two lips can chant Hare Krishna. Only those who are deaf, they can't hear the holy name. But actually there are many devotees of Krishna throughout the world now who they chant Hare Krishna by sign language. I don't know how exactly it works, but I've seen some of these devotees and they look very blissful. So everyone can take part in this immediately, even without understanding the deep philosophy that is part of Krishna consciousness. Without undergoing any prior purification, everyone can take part in this. Until recently in India, only certain people were allowed in the temples. And only people of certain castes were allowed in the temple. Other people were considered too impure. And then to go in the temple, one has to bathe first and be pure. And to actually offer worship in the temple, one has to go through so many procedures. But for chanting the holy names, there's no prior purification required. Of course, it's good if one can be bathed and pure and clean, but in any condition one can chant the holy names of Krishna. And in fact, we are enjoined to chant the holy names of Krishna in all circumstances. It's not that you have to bathe in the morning and then chant Hare Krishna. As soon as we wake up, chant Hare Krishna. And last thing at night, chant Hare Krishna. And then during the intervening time, we can also chant Hare Krishna. And then what will you dream of at night? Hare Krishna. Did anyone have that experience? You do the same thing all day and at night in your dream you do the same thing. So if we go on chanting Hare Krishna, we'll be chanting Hare Krishna in our dream also. One story I heard, this is long back, 1930s, something like that. In one of the Gaudiya Math temples, some people came and they gave some water or some drink, and they gave it to the people there, and it was actually drugged because they wanted them to steal everything. So they drugged them, and then whatever they did, I don't know.